media. As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. And what's up, Obscurians? It's time for another episode of Obscurity Now, the show that takes a look at weird and almost forgotten pieces of media. Then we decide if they should be remembered for all of human history or tossed in the black void of obscurity, never to be heard from again. My name is Steve. I'm one of the hosts, and with me, he's likely to be crushed by a cow at the end of this podcast.
It's Yahel. How are you doing, Steve?
I can hear the laughter erupting from you from my remark there. I'm doing well, not crushed by a cow, that's for sure.
Well, that's always a plus, Steven.
Yeah. I mean, you really got to look out for that kind of stuff in this day and age. Already it's getting too dark, so we'll just move on. How's is it as hot in Florida as it is here in California?
I mean, it's been raining a lot, so it hasn't been as hot. Mm-hmm. Humid, of course, but also this is usually in September when we start to cool down a bit. So I mean, the days that it doesn't rain, yeah, it still gets pretty hot, but our lows are definitely getting lower. Like our lows now are like in 73, 74, 76. So it's getting a little cooler. Not like it was like a month ago where 10 a.m. it's already like blistering hot. Like you need a Captain Planet PSA before you go out the door. How are the temps up there or over there?
Terrible. We don't have rain here, at least maybe 1 or 2 days out of the year, and there's definitely no rain going on today. So it's what is it, like hotter than a witch's teat or something like that? I don't know. I think
that one's colder than a
witch's
teat.
Yeah. Hotter than I'm sweating more than a whore in church. Yeah, there we go. As if it really even matters. So with that, I mean, we should probably just go ahead and dive into Earthworm Jim here, and that's Earthworm Jim, the animated series. Do you even remember this cartoon at all? Did you watch it?
I do remember this cartoon. I didn't watch it, though, but I do remember it being on, and I had a friend that watched it. He was a big fan of the game. I thought the games were okay. They were
okay.
I mean, they were good. I'm just saying, like, but I wasn't like a super fan or anything. But yeah, no, they're good. Both the Genesis and the Super Nintendo version I remember being good.
I loved Earthworm Jim. As in case you didn't guess, I don't know. It was like right up my alley as far as like, you know, weird for the sake of weird kind of humor that was very popular at the time.
Sure.
And I would say that sort of that style of hero or superhero, if you will, was pretty popular. What are some other wacky heroes that you can remember from the 90s, just off the top of your head?
Freakazoid.
Oh yeah.
It's a pretty good one. I don't know if we can really count this, but what was the name of Toaster Man or whatever from Ren and Stimpy?
Oh, Powdered Toast Man. Oh,
Powdered Toast Man. Thank you.
That's good, but I'd say you're missing the granddaddy of them all, whom we've already discussed on this show.
The Tick.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I don't remember any of his video games being any good, though. I think I played one of them on the Genesis that was based off the cartoon. I mean, the show was definitely the superior format for the.
Yeah, I remember the Tick was the first time a cartoon, a joke in a cartoon made me like legit like belly laugh out loud. Mm-hmm. And it's the episode where they're going to like I think it's a dinosaur museum, mm-hmm. and there's like a side, I can't remember because he becomes like a recurring character, but like whoever's like giving them the tour or whatever, you know, gives the Tick and Arthur all this information, and like the Tick or Arthur says something like, I think it's Arthur says, wow, all this information, or the Tick says that, he goes, wow, all this information, and then he like pauses and then just screams, now to retain it. It's just so, it was just so like out of the blue and weird and stupid.
Yeah. Oh man. It's funny that we're mentioning the tick here. I've been made aware that on Tuesday it's like the I don't know 20th anniversary of the cartoon, and they're having like a I don't know what you want to call it. Basically, an event at this bar. Ben Edlund, the creator of the Tick, and the voice actor are going to be there, and they're going to watch like a couple episodes of the cartoon. And I don't know. I'm thinking about going. I actually have to work that night, so the worst thing in the world is going to something fun, knowing that you have to go to work afterwards.
True.
But we'll see. We'll see. But enough about the Tick. There was one other wacky superhero. I was wondering if you could help me remember him, or maybe we can just try to Google search it real quick. He was like red, and he had white, long hair, and it was from a PC game. And it's like, I don't know, Captain Insanity or Captain Weird or something.
This is not ringing a bell.
All right. Well, we'll have to, I don't know, get one of our researchers on. I'll get an intern on it immediately.
Yeah. Good idea.
All right. Are you ready to dive a little further into Earthworm Jim, the animated series?
Yeah. Oh. Let's do it.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
So before we get too deep into the TV show, though, like when the game came out, and when you were introduced to Earthworm Jim, like what were your thoughts?
I really wasn't interested in the game at first, like just from the advertisements and stuff. But my buddy that was, became a really big fan of it. I can't remember if he bought it or rented it for his Genesis, but I played it on there and I liked it. And then I got it for like the Super Nintendo or rented it or something. But I was more of a Booger Man.
What? No one is a Booger Man. But I appreciate the reference. So that's true obscurity right there.
Yeah. But yeah, what about you? I suspect that you liked it because you like Toe Jam and Earl. I feel this is like Toe Jam and Earl adjacent.
Well, I mean, aside from sort of the aesthetic, I thought it was a really solid shooter, which is definitely a genre.
Well, it's not really a shooter; it's a
side-scrolling platforming shooter, if you want to be specific. But yeah, platformer. A solid game with great graphics and a great sense of humor, and I was all in. I actually have a few of the toys still in the package, so eat your heart out, ladies.
Wow. Sandy's a lucky woman.
Yeah, isn't she? So I don't know. So Earthworm Jim kind of came and went. I loved the second game, too. I thought it was even better in some ways. Did you ever play the 3D version?
No. I'm pretty sure I only played like the 16-bit games, and that was it.
That's probably for the best. That's like one of those... Earthworm Jim was one of those sort of, I guess, franchises or titles that couldn't make the jump to 3D, basically, unfortunately. And according to Wikipedia on Earthworm Jim, there was a newer game in the works, but it never really came to fruition recently. But
yeah, I think that there was like a Kickstarter for it briefly or something like that, from what I remember. But and I always confuse for some reason, even though they're not really that similar, Earthworm Jim with what's it called? I think the character's called Abe.
Yeah, the Oddworld series.
Oddworld's Odyssey or something like that, or Abe's Oddworld Odyssey. Is that like one of the games?
Yeah, there's like several games, and they Abe's Exodus, I think, is one of them. But it's funny you mentioned that.
Those are more PC games, I guess.
Yeah, but Doug Tyndall, the creator of Earthworm Jim, after Earthworm Jim, he made a game similar to that with claymation and stuff, and it is called Neverworld. So I could see why, or Neverhood. I'm sorry, Neverhood. So I could see why you would get those two confused. And then he also did Skull Monkeys. I can't remember if that one is supposed to be claymation or not. I hear that the PlayStation, like the physical copy of Neverhood, is actually fetches quite a pretty penny these days if you can happen upon it. I've never even played that game. Have you?
No, I've never played it.
But anyway, speaking of the Earthworm Jim creator, obviously he is the writer and creator, and I guess you would say director of the Earthworm Jim animated series. I couldn't actually find who like directed the specific episode, but you can assume it's either Doug here or his cohort.
Also named Doug Langdale.
No, Doug Langdale. Yeah, the two Dougs. Oh, I didn't even realize that. That's like with Mantis, the two Sams who created it. Yeah, that's funny how that works out. But yeah, Doug Langdale, he's the writer. He's a writer and producer, and also he's still working. He worked when TMNT went to Nickelodeon. He worked on the CGI version, countless Scooby-Doo movies, and kind of got started with Darkwing Duck, another 90s cartoon created by Doug TenNapel, and I guess Doug Langdale here is Project Geeker. You ever watch that one?
No, I don't think I've even heard of it.
I was the one guy who watched it, but we'll have to throw that one on the list because it was pretty interesting. But back to the Earthworm Jim animated series here. It lasted from 1995 to 1996, 2 seasons, 23 episodes, and it premiered September 9th, 1995. We are watching the pilot episode, Sidekicked. And here's a synopsis. Oh, in case you've never heard of Earthworm Jim, do you remember like Earthworm Jim's origin?
Yeah, wasn't he just literally an earthworm that finds the suit or whatever?
Yeah, the
by
suit
chance,
falls
the suit from
on
outer
him.
space or something.
That's exactly what happens. Yes, and here's the synopsis for the episode. After one transformation too many, Jim fires Peter Puppy and tries out a string of new sidekicks when Princess What's-Her-Name is captured by Psychro. And Peter Puppy is indeed Jim's sidekick. And his shtick is basically, if you make him mad, he hulks out. He's basically the puppy version of the Incredible Hulk, more or less. And I've already mentioned the writers and creators here and what they've done. So why don't you go ahead and take us through a very sort of all-star cast here of voice actors.
Yep, we sure do. It's not a huge cast, but yeah, a lot of well-known. We'll start off getting you nice and aroused by mentioning Dan Castellaneta. Castellaneta.
Yeah.
He voices the titular Earthworm Jim, probably best known for his role as Homer Simpson. Ooh. Although he's done a bunch of live action and other like characters, a lot on The Simpsons, right? He does like 3 or 4 characters in The Simpsons. Yeah. So up next we've got Edward Hilbert. Hibbert, excuse me. He is Evil the Cat. I can't wait till we talk about that segment. He's been in quite a few things also. Looks like mostly live action. Actually, yeah, mostly live action stuff, but some video game work and some other voice stuff. Then we've got Kath Sosi. How would you pronounce that? Anyways,
close enough.
Yeah, sure. She plays the voice of Princess What's-Her-Name. She's done a ton of voiceover work in video games and animation, including Rugrats, Futurama. I'm sure there's some Simpsons in there somewhere, Steve. She's got a lot of credits, so let's just pretend.
Oh, yay!
And up next, everybody else on the cast, Steve, has made an appearance on Star Trek.
Oh, wow.
In some way or form. So up next, we've got Charlie Adler, who we've talked about, I think, almost every animated.
Sure, he's right up there with your Peter Cullens and your Frank Welkers at this point.
Yeah, we should just ignore his existence going forward.
Like he ignores
blah,
ours.
Blah, blah, Transformers, Starscream. He was also in Star Trek Online, which I've mentioned before. Up next, we've got Jeff Bennett, who plays the voice of Peter Puppy. He's also has a shit ton of credits to his name. 6 629 separate things that he was on. He was most recently, out of things that I've watched, at least X-Men 97, which, did you ever go back and finish it?
No.
Oh, you got to, man. It's so good.
One day.
Yeah, I think you would like it. Plus, Dr. Crusher gets a part in the final episode, and she's coming back next season.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
come on,
Well,
Steve.
I have to watch it now.
Yeah. Anyways, Jeff Bennett here. He was also in the video game Starfleet Academy, playing everyone's favorite characters, additional voices. Then we've got Jim Cummings. He plays Psycho, Whooping Cough Boy, and Xantor in this episode. Jim Cummings, again, a ton of credits. He's another guy that we've talked about in a lot of episodes. 604 credits to his name. Again, also in Starfleet Academy, the video game, not to be confused with the upcoming Starfleet Academy TV show.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for clarifying.
Currently in production, yes. I don't want there to be confusion for anyone listening to this once it's out. Anyways, Jim Cummings also played our favorite character additional voices, as well as Kestel and Kamath. Then we've got John Kassir, who plays Snot in this episode. He was in the live-action Star Trek show Star Trek Voyager. He plays Gar. He's also has a crap ton of voiceover work. A lot of video game stuff like Bayonetta. Sorry, I misread here. He was in Curious George, but for some reason I combined it with the next thing on his list, Blockbuster. I thought he was in something called Curious Blockbuster. I'm like, it sounds
That's
weird.
weird, yeah.
Anyways, then last but not least, we've got Andrea
Whoa,
Martin.
whoa. You skipped over his most important credits.
Who, Jim Cummings?
No, John Kassir.
Oh, is that who I'm on now? John Kassir? Did I?
The Crypt Keeper.
Oh, yeah. He's a Crypt Keeper.
And more importantly, I've told you that I've met him, right?
No. Well, maybe you have.
Well, I have, yeah. My friend, who's an actor, well, you've met him. He invited me to his, I guess it was his agent's or his manager's, birthday party. And John Kassir is also repped by the same guy, and he was there. And I took a nice drunken photo with him. It was great.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm sure he loved it.
Oh, he did.
Did he? Did he care?
He was really nice, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Well, of course, he was on Star Trek. I mean, then we've got Andrea Martin, who plays the voice of Queen Slug Forabutt, although she has a much longer name in the thing. She was again, ton of credits to her name. Not quite as many as the other ones, but 175, which is not too shabby. She's most recently looks like Only Murders in the Building, which I guess is a new season of that.
Oh, God.
That's coming out or something. She's also on the TV show Evil. You can catch that on Paramount Plus, which is also, Steve, the home of Star Trek, where you can watch her appearance on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, where she plays Ishka. She is.
Are you accepting money from Paramount or the Gene
I'm
Roddenberry?
Very close.
Yeah.
She played Ishka, which is Quark's mom, the first time we see a Ferengi woman. But in subsequent episodes, she was played by a different actress. I think she didn't like the makeup or something. They don't want to come back.
I see. All right. Well,
what a wuss.
Am I allowed to run the bumper now, Mr. Trek?
Yes,
sir?
that concludes our cast and Star Trek appearances.
Okay.
Oh no! We've just entered another Star Trek connection.
Alrighty. So that brings us to our walkthrough. And man, there's so many twists and turns in this story. It's going to make your head spin. All right, so we've got a cold open, basically. The narrator tells us that Earthworm Jim and his sidekick, Peter Puppy, they dangle from these massive cliffs from this planet called the Planet of Tall Things. And that's like a running gag here is things are basically named after what they are.
Yeah, very literally.
Which, I mean, back then, I probably thought that joke was pretty funny. What do you think about it here as an adult in 2024?
I don't know. Sometimes it's okay. Like in the middle of the episode, they go to the planet of giant hammers or something.
Yeah.
And I felt like that one was pretty funny just because but I think it's more than like a planet just full of giant hammers is funny.
Right. Yeah,
You
yeah, I
know,
gotcha. I hear you.
but yeah, I mean, sometimes those jokes landed. Sometimes I was like, eh.
I'm right there with you. So, meanwhile, Professor Monkey for a Head is basically he's in this like mech suit with multiple that is wearing multiple shoes, and it generates static lightning bolts by shuffling its mini feet. And like, why is there like hair on the planet for it to like shuffle its feet on? Yahel, can you answer that for me?
Hey, you're the one that's into wacky
Oh, you're Mr.
things.
Starfleet. I figured you knew everything about space and planets.
Well, Star Trek is science fiction, but it's hard science fiction. This is clearly a lot more on the absurd. So this is your area, Steve. I don't think anybody watched the Earthworm Jim cartoon and was inspired to become a space engineer.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to prove you wrong next episode, maybe. All right. So basically, the machine walks to the edge of the cliff. I guess he's basically shuffling his feet. He's charging up a big bolt of static electricity. I guess his plan is to fry Jim. He peers over the side of the cliff, but the only thing that's there is Jim's robot hand, basically. Then Jim flies on his. I can't remember what his thing is. Is it a robot or a rocket cycle or a rocket bike?
I think it flies, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not, it doesn't have any wheels. So I mean, I guess it's more like a little rocket. Because wasn't there like a stage in Earthworm Jim where you like ride it and it turns into like a shoot 'em up for that stage?
In number 2, yes. I can't remember if it was in number 1 or not. But all right, it's a rocket something. It looks like basically a keg, like a rocket keg.
Sure.
And anyway, he flies into frame and he says, "Didn't you know I was modular?" And and then the professor starts monologuing and threatening Jim, and then Jim's robot hand just sort of floats up and punches him right in the face. Then Jim reattaches the hand, but he accidentally steps on Peter Puppy's paw. Peter then hulks out. He and Jim have a scuffle, and while that's going on, Professor Monkey for a Head basically gets away. And then there's a sort of fourth wall breaking here where they pause fighting.
Sort of.
I mean, all right, Jim breaks the. Did you know, Yahel, that there are other characters who break the fourth wall other than Deadpool? And here's an example.
No, they all stole it from him. Even the ones that came before him, Steve.
Right, and nothing was ever created until Rob Liefeld created it.
Until Stan Lee created it.
But Stan Lee didn't create Deadpool.
No, I know, but I'm like an MCU head.
Oh, right, I got you. Plus, they kind of pretend that Rob Liefeld doesn't exist over there at Disney for whatever reason.
Yeah, did you? Well, you watched the new X-Men and Wolverine and Deadpool, right?
I did. Mm-hmm.
I still haven't seen it, but do they make any Rob Liefeld references at all?
Oh, yes, they do. Yes.
Oh, that's good.
It's right there in the trailer.
I hope he's mad about it.
I mean, it's in the background. You're gonna have to squint to see it, but it's there.
Okay.
So anyway. So Jim asks if they can cut to the title sequence, and the narrator says yes. So that's exactly what they do. The Earthworm Jim theme plays, composed by one William Anderson, who composed such classic music as Biker Mice from Mars, which we already covered, the 2003 Spider-Man MTV show, Fantastic Four cartoon, and Iron Man. Describe the theme, and what did you think about it?
It's quirky, I guess you could say. It's
For sure.
I think it fits the vibe of the show. It's not like I like the theme as the theme for the show. I don't like the theme it's not like the X-Men theme where you could listen to it at the gym or something.
Sure, yeah, it's not. This is not going to get you pumped. You probably wouldn't listen to it in your car. Yeah, It's sort of it explains his origin, which I like. The music style is sort of kind of, I don't know, classic, I guess, sort of Superman orchestra kind of music, almost like
doesn't it have like in the middle like some kind of like almost Primus-y kind of like weird face thing, or am I just imagining?
I think
I was doing cardio while watching this episode, so maybe I was just didn't have enough oxygen in my body.
The funny thing about the music for the Earthworm Jim video game, I would say, is probably better than the music here for the animated show. But
yeah, I mean, but I think it works for the show. Even though I don't really like the song, I like it as a theme for the cartoon. If that makes sense,
yeah,
it's appropriate.
I agree 100% there. It describes his origin and blah, blah, blah. So now we are in the show. We're at Jim's, I don't know, base or home, whatever you want to call it. And Peter Puppy is down on his knees apologizing for hulking out and causing Jim to lose Professor Monkey for a head. And Jim, and he's all like, oh, yeah, this has happened one too many times, Peter, so I'm going to have to find a new sidekick. And that's basically the whole sort of plot for the show. And now we cut to the evil planet Insecticus. And is it Princess Slug for a Butt or Queen Slug for a Butt?
It was Queen.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
So Queen Slug for a Butt tells Psychro, who is basically the Earthworm Jim's, I'd say, main nemesis, wouldn't you?
I guess so. We should mention Queen Slug for a Butt. That's like a very shortened version of her name.
Mm-hmm.
Like it went on and on. I didn't write it down or anything.
Me either. I had notes
Queen
to take.
Queen with a protruding this and that and a pussy blah blah blah, and it ends with Slug for a Butt. Basically.
Yes. So this is definitely her nickname, if you will. Basically, her plan is to have Psychro capture her sister, Princess what's her name, that's her name. And then ransom it for Jim's supersuit, and I guess with the supersuit somehow she's going to take over the world, which is very typical sort of 90s cartoon supervillain stuff. And then we're already in the next scene after that. Was there anything that you wanted to comment on here? This little exchange. The scenes are very quick. I will say the whole episode moves very quick. It doesn't really give you a chance to get bored. It's pretty fast paced.
Mm-hmm. There's only one part, when we get to it, I'll talk about it, that I felt dragged a little bit. But
I think I know the part you mean. So immediately we cut back to Jim, and he gets the ransom note from Psychro. Peter continues basically to suck up to Jim so he can continue being the sidekick, which is really, really sad, but I guess that's his calling in life. Jim deduces from the note that the princess is in a swamp, which also has a very long name, but I had a lot of work to do last night, so it's just a swamp.
Yeah, it was something like the swamp of I don't know. Undesirable
Stenches
physical
something
outcomes,
like
something weird.
He then pours a bunch of garbage out on the ground for Peter, I guess, to roll around in, which is a dog joke, I guess. And then he flies.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, but don't worry, I got you something to cheer you up. The dog's favorite thing, and he's like a bunch of garbage,
which is nice of Jim because he really is mostly a jerk to Peter through this episode.
Yeah, this does not make Earthworm Jim look. It does not put him in the most positive light.
Yeah, but it's just funny because it's sort of unsuspecting, and it's very kind of the Gen X humor of the time, I would say.
Yeah. Well, and it's not like, and Jim's not like maliciously mean or rude. Like, he just kind of is.
Right.
Like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's fine though.
So, and then Jim, he gets on his rocket keg, for lack of a better term, and flies away. And then Peter kind of looks at the camera and is like, oh, even all this trash isn't going to make me feel better. So now, I didn't really see this coming. Jim goes to what is known as the Hero Hutch, which is basically a store where he can go and purchase a new sidekick. So
yes, he can. He's buying human beings now.
It's okay. He's an earthworm. He's allowed to do it. So he's being showed all these wacky sidekicks by just a regular old man. Like they didn't bother to create some wacky alien or whatever to run this store. It's like the typical old man you would see in like a mom and pop. I don't know.
Yeah, or like a place where you go buy like a suit and tie, like a men's warehouse.
Yeah, exactly. Which is pretty funny. So Jim has shown some new sidekicks by him, and they're all wacky in their own way. And he picks one, but they don't really show. They sort of just show him in the corner. You don't really know what you're getting.
Yeah. Like the salesperson just says, "Oh, you have excellent taste," and we don't get to see like, because the other ones they have like pretty crappy powers. Like one of them has like the power of a whooping cough, which just means like, and actually, to be honest, he's the only one with like a real power.
Right, because if he coughs on you, you could catch it, and then you're in trouble.
Well, they also show like the wind blowing really hard. Like he could like, it's kind of like Superman's like super breath, I guess, or something.
I didn't even think about it that way.
Yeah, and everybody else has like crappy powers. Like one of them is like, well, first he's just wearing like a regular business suit, and the guy, and he says he shit himself is why he shit himself while wearing his regular costume. So he's got to wear just regular clothes.
Oh yeah, that was the guy. His name was like Captain Flip his wig or something like that.
Yeah, and his power is like he can make his wig fly.
Yeah,
like,
so stupid. Oh god, but creative, I guess.
Yeah, and I did like that the salesman like doesn't really know how to address Earthworm Jim, like, or what he is. He's like, "Oh, hello there, you creature," and like every time he refers to him, he like has a new like weird thing to call him. I thought that was pretty good.
They're implying that the salesman isn't very open-minded. Is what they're saying.
No, despite running a store that sells superpowered people.
Right. You'd think he'd be used to it, but nah. He just becomes over time. He's just become more and more closed-minded and, dare I say, racist. But moving on. So next scene, Psychro has Princess What's-Her-Name handcuffed in a prison. Let me ask you this, Yahel. And this is the popular trope, I'd say, a 90s cartoon. So we got all these wacky sort of animal creatures around. Like, why does the princess have to be like a hot woman, more or less, for lack of a better term?
I mean, yeah, but I guess like I think it's for two reasons. One, she's supposed to be like the sister of the Bug Queen, right? Who like looks kind of grotesque in her design.
Absolutely.
So I think she's supposed to like be like the opposite of that. One, two, she's supposed to be like Earthworm Jim's like love interest, and he like has like the super hots for her or whatever. So I guess.
But why would a worm be attracted to a human woman?
I mean, why would a worm care about fighting like villains? You know, like
because he got the soup.
And she's not a human woman. She's an insectozoid or whatever she says.
That's true.
Are you not paying attention? He wants to eat her.
Just making sure you're paying attention.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I mean, to the if you don't know her origin, just like judging her from the outside, she looks like a regular, pretty attractive woman.
Steve, I get that you have a thing for her. But
that's not it at all.
No, but within the show, like it's like the second or third thing she says. I'm an insectozoid. I have 100 times the strength of a normal man, or whatever. So I mean, they
that makes it
established pretty
okay, is
quickly
what
that
you're
she's
saying.
not. I mean, she's not a human, and neither is Earthworm Jim. So I guess it's fine. I don't know. She doesn't seem to be interested in him.
It's true.
Anyway,
it's true. Yeah. I'm just having fun here. Who cares? But the
however you justify your tribute to her, to your wife, is fine by me. But I was gonna say that the third reason why she's hot is so somebody named Doug, I won't say which one, probably has a thing for her. Has some kind of fantasies he's working.
The answer
out
is because she was created by a man. That's why.
Yeah, but you know how these Dougs are.
do 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 do. All right. So anyway, as Yahel was saying, basically the princess here is already busting out here. She's at first handcuffed to the wall.
She's busting out all right.
See? You agree. So she breaks the handcuffs, and like Psychro basically runs away and locks her in her cell.
how did he catch her then to begin with?
Yeah. I mean,
Because she's like, oh, you think you're holding me hostage? I can break out anytime, and she does.
yeah, the Dougs here definitely follow the sort of rule of thumb where you're supposed to like start a scene basically in the middle of the scene, so you're never bored. I mean, like, do you get what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And I guess based on the ending, she wanted to be caught because at the very end, just to skip for a second, like when Earthworm Jim obviously, finally beats the bad guy and goes to save her, she's already, even though they're in a different location, she's already broken herself out. She says something to him like, oh, I thought you'd never beat that guy. Like she's just been waiting,
Right.
for him to like finish up. So almost like she kind of wanted to be caught so like Earthworm Jim would come get her. So
she does like him.
So basically, there's a cartoon for incels to blame women for teasing them.
Oh, no, I disagree. Clearly,
No,
Princess
kidding.
What's Her Name is a strong, independent woman that don't need no Earthworm man to save her.
That's right.
So, I don't know. You can look at it either way, dear viewer, dear listener.
Yeah, I don't think it was like there was a lot of thought put into it. And I don't think there needs to be because that's not really what the show's about.
No. This is basically one gag after another. There's as we're seeing, there's very little story. It's just
It's more Ren and Stimpy than Simpsons. Where it's about the gags more than the story.
Right, and there's
sense.
more story in like I would say in the Tick than there is in this. Almost more like Looney Tunes, if you will. So let's see. So yeah, basically Psychro closes the door to her cell and locks her in. Now we're back with Jim and his new sidekick. And I really appreciated this reference because I'm a huge fan of the Shadow. Jim goes, wow, I can't believe I get to work with the Shadow. But then they show the guy, and it's just like this nerdy looking guy wearing like green, and he does kind of have a hat, kind of like the Shadow. And he says, oh, I'm not the Shadow. I'm a Shadow.
A Shadow.
He says, and Jim is like, well, let me see your power. And basically his power is the ability to make shadow puppets. But the best part is that Jim is still impressed because the guy does shadow puppets really well. And Jim is like, I was only able to make a bunny. And so they hear the princess scream. And in the background is like the evil tower, I guess, where she is being held. They approach said evil tower. The Shadow, or I'm sorry, a Shadow, attempts to use his power to take down. There's like these giant sort of swamp worm, like thug guys that they have to basically, take out in order to get into the tower. A Shadow makes some shadow puppets. They applaud, and for a minute, Yahel, I thought, wow, was that actually going to be enough? And then they just whack them away, which was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And so this begins what is basically the running gag of the episode of Jim just like going through sidekicks like toilet paper, basically.
Right.
And so then we hard cut to Evil the cat stalking a cute little kid. Now, I would assume that you would love this whole sort of scenario coming up here since you're such a cat guy.
Yeah, I was not a fan of the whole cat segment. This is what I thought dragged a bit.
Me too. Let me talk through it, and then we'll give our thoughts.
Yeah.
So it's like basically your cute little 6-year-old kid. Evil the cat shoots an acid hairball at him, but the kid just happens to pick up a trash can lid and deflects it. Then Evil the cat comes at the kid with his claws, like sort of Wolverine style, but then is hit by a car into a butcher, and the butcher turns him into sausage. But we're not done there yet, dear listener. Then Evil the cat, he still goes at him with what looks like, to me, a Super Scope 6, but, it's probably just, any kind of generic-looking laser gun. But the kid's mom sees him and says, oh, what a cute cat, but he needs shots. So I guess this mom is adept to just picking up random cats and taking them to the veterinarian to get them shots and then giving them a home. Which maybe that's all Evil Cat really needs in order to get over evil. But anyway, so the mom, how does this play out? She, all right, so we see Evil, and he's in a box now. It's all dark, and then we see the mom, and we think she's at the veterinarian. She opens the box and sees that Evil is not in there, and then she goes, "Oh, I think I put the wrong box down." And he's in.
She says she's like, "Oh no, I dropped off the wrong box at the factory."
Yes, that's it. And then we see the factory, and after Evil opens it up and looks around, and then it's just a regular factory. It's not like a fireworks factory or anything like that.
No, it actually says on the sign, it says fireworks factory.
And then
it actually says Kaboom Fireworks Factory.
And that's exactly what happens. It explodes and basically makes Evil the cat go into space, which I don't know if this was supposed to be his origin story or a reason to show why he got to space, but this basically has no bearing into the very loose plot of the episode. Your thoughts, dear sir?
Yeah, I just thought it dragged. It seemed out of nowhere. I don't know if maybe later on this cat comes up in the other episodes, and I don't remember if he's in the game.
He is.
He is? Okay, I mean, if he's in the game, I guess I can see why they would introduce him. I just don't think this was like a particularly entertaining segment.
I think this was a filler or time killer. Like, they just didn't have enough for Jim to do, which, I mean, really, with how loose everything is, I mean, they could come up with anything for Jim to do.
Do you think it would have been better to like maybe put this cat segment at the end of the episode, like after all the Jim stuff?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, but why would,
as like a bonus thing or
like,
whatever?
Why would you care though?
Yeah, but I just think like putting it in the middle. I mean, I agree with you. Like, I wouldn't have liked it anywhere, but like at least it wouldn't break up the flow of the story.
That's a good point. And I mean, but this is, I would say, I mean, again, not to defend it, but this is what they would do in like a Freakazoid or a Tick. Just cut to something random.
Yeah, it's not uncommon.
But usually, I feel like those shows, it would be funnier, where this was just kind of boring. It was like Looney Tunes, but like not as good and just sort of eye-rolly.
Yeah.
So anyway, back at the Jim lair, Peter Puppy is drinking coffee with Snot, the little green slime guy. And then this was another thing that I sort of rolled my eyes at. Peter's like, "Oh, I feel so bad. I need to, I can't even like emote or something." For some reason, he feels a need to do interpretive dance. Maybe that he feels like that's...
Yeah, he can't express how sad he is with words.
And I could see them on paper thinking that this was going to be hilarious, but it just makes me roll my eyes.
I rolled my eyes too. I mean, I get that it's a kid's show, but it's like not everything else, but so much else is kind of like, I wouldn't say sophisticated. It's still geared at kids, but it's more sophisticated writing than your average morning cartoon. Sure. So it's a little weird for them to then be like, okay, let's try and get a 5-year-old to laugh at this.
Right. It's a little fillerish feeling to me, for sure. Just like the previous. It's almost like they sort of ran out of steam in the middle of the episode. Like
I feel like this is like a note from the network.
Maybe haven't
putting something for little kids to laugh at.
But they don't even know what interpretive dance is. But sure, why not?
Well, I don't think that they would have told them specifically what to do. Just other than like, hey, put in something there needs to be more comedy for like little kids.
Sure.
Because we want to sell them toys.
Right. So
that they'll keep in the package to impress women.
It worked for me. No, I didn't get those action figures till long after I was married, in case anyone cares. So once the interpretive dance is over, we cut back to Jim, who has been eaten by this sort of weird mutated alligator woman, and he basically manages to punch his way out. Jim then kicks his way into the tower. He thinks he's freed the princess, but then it ends up just being like a weird alien green guy in princess drag. What did you think of that gag?
I mean, it was fine. I mean, we knew it wasn't going to be the princess since we had already seen her escape. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it would have been better for us not to know that or what beforehand, but it was fine. Just not very inspired,
Right.
I would say.
If this would have been made in like the 2000s, there would have been a Your Princess is in Another Castle reference, I feel.
I was just gonna say it felt very, Super Mario Brothers,
Sure.
Princess and Another Castle thing, but I doubt it was a reference to that, but it felt a lot like it.
Right. So then Jim searches like these very dangerous looking mountains with his new sidekick, Whoopee Cushion Man. And somehow Whoopee Cushion Man gets, I think Jim actually pushes him off the cliff. That's what I have written here, or slips. And he falls down and like makes little fart noises. And that's when we hear his name. And Jim is like, "No, Whoopee Cushion Man." And did you chuckle? What,
Nah, I thought it was stupid.
I mean, I think the idea of him having multiple sidekicks or lame sidekicks in one episode is funny. But yeah, the execution leaves a little bit to be desired.
Yeah. I just don't think fart jokes, even as a little kid, I just never thought they were
me
funny.
either. Me either. So then Jim is searching on the aforementioned planet of massive hammers with Captain Cabbage, and then basically they run off screen, and you hear Captain Cabbage go, "Ugh, coleslaw." So basically the joke is he got smashed by the hammers and turned into coleslaw.
Which, see, that's kind of what I mean, though. Like, that writing is more sophisticated than you would normally find.
Yeah.
And a kid show, because you have to, like, know what coleslaw is and how it's made.
Right.
So, I appreciate that. It didn't really make me laugh or anything.
Yeah, same here. It's kind of like like that's the noise you make when you hear a joke like that.
Yeah. But I also don't even think it was, like, meant for laughs, per se. I think it was just supposed to be a little clever.
Sure.
Way of kind of saying this guy's dead without saying this guy's
right
dead.
Yeah, there's a lot of death in this episode.
Yeah.
So after, let's see, then all right, he searches the planet. Jim finds they cut, basically this is a montage. They then cut to Jim finding some old princesses. Like the narrator is basically like, Jim found a whole bunch of princesses to rescue, but it wasn't the right one. And they show a bunch of old ones, and I don't know, I guess that's supposed to be disappointing because they weren't young and fresh like Princess what's her name?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the joke, right?
They're old and dried up. And Earthworm Jim, earthworms love being in moisture.
Yes, moist.
So,
you ever meet those people who don't like the word moist?
I have. I will say, like, sometimes you can use that word to describe something and make it sound kind of gross.
Sure, of course you can.
So I can kind of get that, but just as like in the word moist.
Well, hopefully we made some people feel uncomfortable just now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm feeling a little moist in this Florida humidity after a while.
I'm as dry as a desert, just like those old princesses.
No, at least you're safe from Earthworm Jim's sexual assault.
If he tried to come at me, he would just dry up. So after this was I don't know, moderately funny. We're back with Peter Puppy again, and he's got like a question that he has to answer, or the narrator, he basically says, Peter Puppy has finally reached an answer to the question. And then Peter Puppy is like, I think this butter tastes more like butter. So it's supposed to be a riff on I Can't Believe It's Not Butter commercial or something like that.
Yeah. Like margarine commercials during the 90s would do like basically the Coke taste test, the Coke versus Pepsi taste test, where it was like, oh, I think this one tastes more like butter. And then they'd reveal, sorry, it was Country Crock or whatever,
Yeah. I love a good Country Crock reference.
That's my preferred margarine of choice. The churn style does taste quite a bit like butter.
Good to know. I'd figure you'd be an all-natural butter kind of guy.
No. Why?
I don't know. Supposedly, they put a bunch of, fake crap in the margarine.
It's just like vegetable oil.
Yeah, isn't vegetable oil supposedly bad?
I mean, how much butter, how much margarine do you think I'm eating?
I mean, I'm just throwing it out there.
I don't eat that much. I mean, I only use margarine like basically on my toast in the morning, and sometimes I'll put a little bit in the pan to cook some eggs, and that's it.
Oh yeah? Well, do you eat your toast butter side down or butter side up?
I butter both sides. That way, there's no wrong answer.
That way you can appeal to both demographics. God, brilliant.
Yes, it's actually some social commentary, Steve, that it doesn't matter which side is butter.
Well, that's the whole
They're both
point of that
delicious.
Dr. Seuss book, you know?
I don't. Is that what you were referencing? I've never read Dr. Seuss.
Well, you should someday. I don't know. Read it to your dog or your cat, since you're never going to have
It
kids.
just wasn't that big in Puerto Rico when I was a
I
kid.
can see that.
I'm sure it's translated, but I can't imagine that it has the same appeal.
Yeah, right. So anyway, yeah, this is basically a throwback to a margarine commercial, which is pretty funny to watch here in 2024. So
yeah, it's very of the time.
yes. So Peter decides he has to prove to Jim like why he needs him, which man, I mean, if you want to delve into this on the psychological levels, Peter has some real issues here. He has to be needed by Jim. But I'm sure that's not what they were thinking when they were writing this thing. And then we cut to Psychro, and he's still struggling with Princess, what's her name? He tries to barricade her in. He like throws all this random crap, which is supposed to be funny, very sort of Looney Tunes-ish. He tries to barricade her in, but she still gets out. And she's like talking smack, basically like, you know, I'm so strong, like, what did you think that was going to hold me, blah, blah, blah. And then Psychro shows up in the Exoskeleton, which is basically a Exo Squad-esque mech suit, which I'm sure we can all appreciate that here. He grabs her, and basically that's enough to finally put her in her place for you incels out there.
Yeah, she when she's like caught in his arm thing, like she very very similar to like reminiscent of King Kong. You know, she's like trapped in his arm, and she says, "I don't usually like to do this, but," and then she like screams for help.
Yeah. So it's pretty funny, just little jabs here on the tropes and flipping them and flopping them, which I guess that's what Doug TenNapel is all about in a way. So he basically puts her back in his cell. So all of that was just to kill time, ladies and gentlemen. So now we're back at the Jim lair. Jim is reading a book titled An Idiot's Guide to Dangerous Places. Remember when all those dummy books were popular back in the 90s? And they also had the Kmart version, which I believe was called The Idiot's Guide. And then Peter is there begging him to take him back. And then he figures out, thanks to the book, that Princess What's-Her-Face is at the Boulevard of Acute Discomfort. This one I actually wrote down.
That was a pretty funny one.
Yeah. He grabs his rocket, and Peter sneaks into the back, even though Jim basically told him to stay put again. Now cut to, I guess this is supposed to be the Boulevard of Acute Discomfort. Jim has another sidekick, and this is Turns His Eyes Inside Out Boy. Did you ever have a guy in elementary school who could do that trick?
Yes.
Were you him?
No. Didn't think it was cool then. Didn't think it was cool now.
Just think about all the girls you could have gotten back then if you could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, not as many as having, you know, Earthworm Jim action figures.
Of course not.
But still, a good amount, a decent amount. So Jim gets info from a guy at like the front desk of what looks like a hotel or something. And again, it just looks like a regular human. Like, is this laziness or is it supposed to be funny?
Well, I guess like it's just to establish like Earthworm Jim lives in the real world.
I feel like he lives in kind of like a Roger Rabbit-esque world.
It is a little weird because like I almost feel like they go out of their way to like say like, oh look, there's humans, and look, the salesman thinks it's weird that Earthworm Jim doesn't look like a human being. But then like all the villains are like
Over the top. Yeah,
insects
yeah.
or whatever. Are they aliens that are
Yeah.
just insectoids?
Yeah.
Okay. And then also, um, like I don't know, like he has a dog that
Mm-hmm.
talks, but the dog's a regular dog, not a alien.
I,
Or is
I
the dog an
think you're
alien?
right. I think he is actually from Earth. Ah,
Yeah, so it's a little bit all over the place, but again, I mean,
right. It's
it's not that deep.
wacky. It's weird for the sake of being weird. So we will move on. So after Jim gets the info from the regular human at the front desk, he then goes and bursts through a door and is immediately flattened by Excro's exoskeleton, or the Psychro's exoskeleton's claw. The new sidekick is then immediately killed, which is turns his eyes inside out boy. Yeah, there's a scene where Jim is like, okay, let me see that power. So he does it, and then Psychro immediately like flattens him. Again, another
Yeah.
death here in this kid's cartoon. I love the 90s.
Well, well, doesn't he say like, oh, it's a good thing like the Sidekicks Union has excellent medical coverage or something
Yeah,
like
I mean, of
that?
course, they have to have a line that says the sidekicks weren't actually killed,
I
but
Well, I think they killed the cabbage one, and then I bet the like what's it called, standards and practice was like, okay, you can't kill more than
yeah,
one.
you're right, right.
Because they always have like real weird like rules.
It is weird. Psych.
Oh, the woman with the giant boobs hanging out on the kids show. Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, oh
But
yeah. Well, back then it was. Nowadays, it's definitely not. But let's see. So then, yeah, Psycho flattens Jim and is about to like wail on him, but then Peter Puppy intervenes. He hulks out and basically takes out Psycho. And of course, this brings us back to where we were at the beginning of the episode. Jim then changes his mind about Peter being his sidekick, and then Jim opens the cell for the princess, but of course she's already escaped. And she shows up, and Jim sort of makes this big heroic vow at the end. He says, "As long as I'm around, no one will harm you again." And then out of nowhere, the cow falls and flattens her. And then he goes, "Except for a cow." And then cut to credits. Do you know why the cow falling on her is significant?
I mean, doesn't that happen in the game?
Yes, that basically after you beat the game and save the princess, the cow falls on her.
Yeah, I wish they would have like set that up earlier because I mean, this is like assuming for that joke to work that you have played the game
Yeah.
and beaten it.
Right, right. Because in the very
Um,
first level of Earthworm Jim, you launch the cow. So, I mean, it's not like,
there's a setup.
but they don't have
You
it
know
in the.
what could have been used to set that up?
What's that?
They could have used that cat segment to set it up. Maybe somehow have like the cow end up going into outer space, or have both. Maybe the cat and the cow. If you need to do the
Yeah, I don't know why they
and
didn't do. I mean, unless they're like looking at the animated series as some sort of continuation of the game, but then that doesn't make sense because the cow would have already crushed her. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, they spend a bunch of time doing some very mild and not very funny gags, especially with the cat, when they could have been setting up that cow joke.
yeah, but I do think the fact that it wasn't pre-set up all does make me think that maybe you're right about the cat thing being like done just for time because maybe the episode ran short because it's not connected at all in any way.
Do you think? Let's render our verdict, and then I'll ask you that question. Are you ready?
Yep.
Remember, you're rated. That is the question.
All right, Earthworm Yahel. Do you think that Earthworm Jim, the animated series, even though they don't really call it that, should be remembered for all of human history, or tossed in the black void of obscurity, never to be heard from again?
You know what? Even though I wouldn't watch the rest of this, taking into account who it's meant for and the time it came out in and all that, blah blah blah, I enjoyed this more than a lot of the cartoons we have watched. So I'm going to say remember it. And like you said, like it goes by, even with that cat segment, it has really good pacing. And yeah, a lot of it doesn't make sense. So you're kind of going from gag to gag, but it goes by quick. So I would say if you're a fan of the game, you'll probably like the cartoon.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. I mean, there's definitely some eye-rolly gags here, and there's not much story. But I watched this. I've watched a few episodes with my son, and he really enjoys it. And I still enjoy watching it with him. And I'm a pretty big Earthworm Jim fan. And as far as like video game cartoon adaptations of video games go, I'd say this one is pretty good. So there you go. Earthworm Jim, the cartoon, shall be remembered. In accordance to Obscurity Now, the most important streaming YouTube podcast in all of the internet, you shall be remembered. Yes. Good show. Good show. All right. I mean, I'd have to watch like a few more episodes like recently to see if it's, I don't know, if they have any more story than this one. I mean, I doubt it. But do you think like, you know how some cartoons like Hanna-Barbera ones have like 2 episodes in one episode? Do you think that would serve Earthworm Jim a little better?
I mean, if the stories are going to be like this minimal, yeah. Now I will say, I don't know if you happen to look at the IMDb ratings, but this is like the lowest rated episode of the season by a pretty wide margin. This one's rated 7.9, which is still good, but and a lot of these episodes have like 40 to 50 ratings, so it's a decent amount of ratings. And a lot of the other ones are like 8.5 to like 8.9, which is unusually high on IMDb.
Yeah. So it definitely has its fan base. So I think we made the right decision.
Yeah. And looks like the second season is even more highly rated.
Oh, I don't even think I've ever made it to the second season. I might have to check that out sometime.
Season 2, episode 1 is the origin of Peter Puppy. So maybe, find out why he can talk.
Yeah, I'm sure it makes a lot of sense. But
wow, it's so funny. Like that episode, I'm just gonna read you the description. It's like Jim. Again, this is season 2, episode 1. Jim, having had enough of Peter's deadly tantrums, that's about a way of to cure his transformation problems. The quest leads us back to how and why Peter is so intelligent. So, hey, I appreciate that they're going to that they address it.
Sure, yeah.
I apologize, Dougs.
Hey, Doug, while you're at it, I could really use a job. But, yeah, well, anything else to add before we sign off here?
I am good.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Please subscribe and tell all your friends. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think about Earthworm Jim, the animated series. Where can someone watch this? I mean, Daily Motion, I think, is the only sort of non-pay service. It's not on Tubi, surprisingly, and I couldn't even find full episodes on YouTube. So someone's holding on to that Earthworm Jim license tight.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it was taken off or something, because there's like I did find like a playlist called Earthworm Jim full episodes. And in that playlist, it says that there's 58 unavailable videos that are hidden. So, yeah, someone has claimed it. But, yeah, Daily Motion, it's on there. That seems to kind of be where it's at.
Yeah. And, so let us know what you think. And we will see you all next time as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now. See you next time.
You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links If that's what you're into, I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.